thanks for joining Sales with Suli, a mom of three who spent the last 12 summers knocking doors. Welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things women, the ups and downs of my journey, and what it takes to find success on and off the doors. Enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode. I am super excited. It is not often that we get Golden Door winners on the show, and it has just been so fun just to kind of see new glass ceilings being broken and being like shattered to pieces. And that's exactly what our guest that we have today had did this last summer. And just by popular request, like I know that there was a few of you guys who was at Door to Door and had more questions that you guys, was at Door to Door Con and had more questions that they wanted to ask specifically to Carol. So I'm going to be going over some of those with her today. I met with Carol, with freaking Rachel. Let me have it, Rachel. I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell us like exactly how you got into Door to Door and a couple of fun facts about you.
So thanks for having me here. It's great to be here today. Yay. I am from San Diego, California. I graduated from BYU in April of 2020, so 3 years ago now. And actually,
the melting pot for recruiting.
Yep, exactly. So I actually started my first summer right after I graduated. So it was something I never thought
Right after you graduated BYU?
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, who did someone just approach you? Like,
so
was
one of my good friends just recruited me. He kept trying to convince me to go out, and I was like, I don't think so, because I've spent like the last 5 years in school, getting these majors, and so I never thought sales or door knocking would be anything that I would do. But he kept trying to convince me, and then I was like kind of undecided on, I double majored, so I was kind of undecided on what trail I wanted to go into.
Holy cow.
And so I was just so conflicted, and I was like, maybe I should just do it for a summer, and then gives me a little bit more time to figure out what I want to do.
Okay.
And then COVID happened like that year of 2020.
There's so many good stories during COVID, I feel like.
Yeah. And so like a lot of the companies that I would have wanted to work for went on a hiring freeze. And so I was like, well, maybe this will be good then. I'll just do this for like a couple months, and then I'll get a job in September.
Yeah.
And hopefully companies will be hiring by then. And then it ended up going so much better than I ever could have expected. So I was like, okay, I'd be dumb not to do this again. And how many
did you do your first year? And you were only like 23?
Yeah, so I was 23. Yeah, my first summer. And I sold 450 accounts and did 280K.
You slaughtered what I did my very first summer. And then Bella Steve like broke it with 4 something. And so I think your very first year, for what?
450.
450. Holy freaking cow. Yeah. Your first year like ever, like what do you feel like attributed to that? Because you had no sales experience. Like you were going to school, smart person, cute little girl. Like what attributed to you your very first year in Door to Door, like slaying it?
Yeah, so I think a couple things, because like you're right, I had zero sales experience. I've never knocked doors before, never done anything really even similar to it. But I feel like I've done other really hard things in my life that I was like, okay, I might not have any sales experience, but I know how to work hard.
Wow.
So I was like, no matter what, like I know that I can learn the pitch, I can learn how to sell. And I know that if I outwork anyone and if I just work hard enough, I know that I can do it. So that was kind of like my mindset going into it, because I was really hesitant going into something that I've never done before.
Yeah.
But just school, I think, even really helped. Like, not that I use my actual majors, but just going to school, like, you just learn how to learn and you learn how to work hard. And then I also played Division I soccer for a little bit. And so
yes, the competitiveness.
Like,
yes.
So just all those skills and like the drive and dedication that I learned like through that, and the competitiveness that I've like always had that competitive edge in me because of soccer.
Yeah.
And so that kind of definitely, I think, led to my success at like that first summer, even despite having zero sales skills.
Did you have any other girls like on the team or anything?
Yeah. So there was one other girl on the team.
Okay. And like, were you guys pretty close? Did you guys just do like a lot
we
of
were
things?
friends. So I was like really scared to go out, because I was like, I don't want to go out with all of these guys. So I convinced my best friend to come out with me.
I did that my first summer too. I convinced my best friend because I'm like, I know what I'm
like,
going
I
to be
can't go
doing.
out. Like, I can't be the only girl.
Yeah, and that's something that I talk about a lot when guys are like, how do we recruit women? Like, how do we get them to stay? How do we do this? Like, being able to have that buddy system and being able to have a familiar face, it makes a huge difference. Even if there is two of you, like only two of you, but still, as opposed to like some of those women who are just the only ones on their team. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you feel like that were some of your struggles, like your first year with just you two as girls on your team?
Yeah, I think there's things that just girls go through that guys just don't understand. And so having to like go through those and like the guys are just like, oh, like suck it up, like, or like they just like don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I think just that. And then I think that there are different things that like girls typically like do and say on the doors which help them, which again guys don't understand. So it's 1,000%. Like certain like objections or just certain words, phrases, like there's so many things that are different between guys and girls, and they're just like subtle things, but guys don't understand. So they tailor the pitch and they tailor trainings and all
the
that stuff
trainings
to
and
men.
Everything to the guys. Yes.
And so it's like then girls, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to say that, So you kind of have to like figure it out like on your own what you're going to say because everything's tailored towards men.
And you definitely figured it out, like for sure.
Yeah.
Did you service more than your team leader that year?
I did.
Yes, I laugh because I'm like 450 a few years ago is a lot on a team. So props to you. I want to fast forward it to last year. So there has been 3 women in the pest control space who has won the Golden Door. Amy Spencer being first at only 24 years old. And then I hit Golden Door during the pandemic year. And then freaking Rachel like slaughtered revenue and everything this last year going into, age 26 and doing it with freaking vigor and all of that. So during this time, so you did 450 your very first summer. How many did you sell your second summer?
In my second summer, I did 570 accounts and like 355 in revenue.
And then 355, and then and then this last year you did.
I did 1,003 accounts and 672,000 in revenue.
That is freaking amazing. Were you running teams or co-managing or anything any of these 3 years?
So my first year I was just all alone. My second year I was running just a small team. I just had a few people under me.
Okay.
And then this last year I was just by myself. I knew that if I wanted to go out and hit 1,000 accounts, do a Golden Door, I knew that would be too hard to run a team and do that. So I just really focused on myself and kind of put recruiting on a hold for that year.
Good freaking call.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's a lot of people who've kind of like reached out. They are managing a team right now and they're recruiting, they're doing all these things. And they're like, how do I hit a Golden Door? And I'm like, well, I didn't do it running a team, so I can't really like give you that advice. Well, I was co-managing, but it wasn't like, I could go out by myself and things like that.
Yeah.
But this last year, what did your routine look like? Like, what did training look like for you before the summer started? And then what was your routine during the actual summer?
Yeah. So I think before the summer, before this third year, I definitely did the most training I had ever done, like before summer. Before my first summer, I really didn't do any training at all. I just knew the words. Yeah. That's all I knew. I was like, okay, I know
knew the words and still did 450 accounts.
But yeah, I really didn't do any training. Before my second summer, I did a few trainings here or there, but nothing like crazy. And then this last summer, I just did a lot more like kind of deep dive trainings, like just myself with different platforms. And then I also just tried to meet with top performers, meet with other reps that are successful and even reps that sold less than me. I think there's still things in their pitch that I can take from. And so I really love like just hearing and watching as like other people's pitches. So then I can kind of like take what I like from theirs and make it my own. So I did a lot of that, kind of just meeting with other people, watching their pitch, kind of like refining mine and getting in like the right headspace.
And I think people probably take this like I know when I started back in door to door, it was, we don't really like train or help other people who aren't, on our team or in our company and things like that. But I think that we take lightly how big proximity is, like having a bunch or you yourself, like knowing a lot of other top producers and being able to like, hey, like role play with them and ask for questions and things like that. Like, how do you feel going up to this upcoming summer? Like, do you have big goals or are you just focusing on on recruiting and building your team or things like that? Or are you going to take everything that you learn and try to go for like another one this year?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is I'm just really going to focus on recruiting and running a team. As much as I would love to do it again, it was definitely a lot. That's just not my long-term goal, too. My long-term goal is to grow and run and manage like a big team eventually.
Yeah.
I do want to, like, my long-term goal is to be a regional in my company.
I love that so much.
So I'm like, so I need to start focusing on recruiting and managing. And so that's kind of my focus now. Of course, I'll still sell and, you know, be a pace setter and stuff when need be, but now I want to take everything that I've learned and go help other people accomplish their goals.
I love that. So. I am going to link you up with McKenna Hall after this. She was like one of the top females at Aptive, but she is a divisional working to regional in the past company. And so I think that you guys would have like a lot in common in the sense of like, you know, being able to help each other out and stuff like that during the summer, because that's exactly what you want to do. But I love hearing you say that your long-term goal is helping people. Like, tell me why you want to recruit and help people. Like, I feel like a lot of women in this space, I know even on my team specifically, they're like, I don't want to recruit. Like, I don't want to run a team. Like, I never wanted to either. I was just kind of like, oh, kind of like do my thing. This is probably like the first year that I'm actually focusing on recruiting for kind of like other reasons and being an example. But what's your reasoning, or like what are some of the things that you've had to overcome as far as just recruiting and building a team, you know, as a female and still getting men and stuff like that on your team?
Yeah, I think probably one of the challenges that I've definitely seen a lot and that I've had to overcome is there's, unfortunately, just being super blunt and not sugarcoating anything, there's still a lot of sexist people out there, you know? And so there's still a lot of guys that I know feel like they just don't want to work under a girl, no matter like how successful they are, no matter how much they have to offer. They just don't want to work under a girl because of like their pride and their ego. And so
1,000%.
And so like I've definitely seen that, and it's so unfortunate that it's 2023 and people still feel that way.
Legitimately, because they do not know how well like women will be able to like help elevate and things like that.
So it's that's definitely like a challenge, just like in terms of like recruiting men. And of course not everyone is like that, but there definitely are a lot of people that are like that and feel that way. So that's kind of a challenge there. And then with recruiting girls and stuff, there's still just that stigma out there that girls just won't do well. Like they don't do well, like they're not going to do well, they can't handle the job, things like that. And so I think those are probably like the biggest challenges and stuff that I found trying now to build a team and recruit.
How have you been like finding, like what are the types of like resources, or how are you like recruiting? Because there's a lot of people that's like, I don't know anyone, I just have, you know, just my family members, and I don't really want to talk to people. Like, what are some of the ways that you've been able to like get some traction on recruiting?
I think it's, and I definitely ran into that same problem, I think, when I was first starting, because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I know people that I know aren't going to want to sell, things like that. So I think just getting out of my comfort zone, Instagram and social media has been huge, just like reaching out to people, as uncomfortable as it might be sometimes, like you never know if they might be interested or respond. So I think just reaching out to people, finding different platforms, Indeed, LinkedIn, just places like that, just kind of getting the word out. And I'm still pretty new to it, because this is my first, first off season, trying to actually focus on recruiting and building a team. So I'm still learning, but
one thing that I love to just like suggest is you did an amazing thing like this last year, and none of us really knew like how you did it or your stories. Like, I feel like if you spent more time on like social media, like talking about like your days, and things that you did on the door and stuff like that, like people are going to be able to relate, like actually having conversations with you. And I had this conversation with a rep that I was like mentoring, and anyways, and she was just like, it was just so intimidating. You're like way up there and I'm like way down here. Like I could never approach you. I could just never do that. But what she felt like, the more that I was like sharing my stories and the struggles and things like that, it was like, holy cow, like I can be on that team. Like it's not just this pretty, we win all the awards, and there was no kind of struggles. And I feel like the more that we share our stories in this space, and it's kind of why I created this. It's not even for money or anything like that. But I remember being in this space at 2008 and wishing that there was someone who was doing exactly what I'm trying to do right now. Like, just share the reality of it. Just share the stories, and just like hearing your struggles and what you're doing. I'm like looking at some of my girls and people who do want to run a team, and like seeing and hearing from a top producer, like, oh, she struggles too when it comes to recruiting, but freak, if she can do it, so can I. And so I would just like love to see and hear more of your stories. Even throughout the summer, when you're going out there and you know, you're on the doors, like having a good day or a rough day, like I would love to, you know, I'd be one of those people if I was still in there. I'm like, oh, I want to ask her what she's doing. You know, so I think that a lot of times that we women, we dismiss the power of just sharing our stories. Like that's legitimately the whole reason behind this podcast, is to have top producers like you be able to share their stories. And so I just want to thank you for taking the time to even come, because I know that you're recruiting and you're busy and you're doing all this, all these things. So to even take, you know, 30, 40 minutes out of your time to be able to come and help other women, like, thank you for that. But what I want to get into, again, from the summer that you did 1,000 pest accounts, because someone reached out and specifically like asked, okay, so on those really tough days, like obviously we know the cookie cutter, hey, you just, you know, compartmentalize, you get out of the way and you get up. Your year that you did 1,000 pest control accounts, and the days that were really super hard, what were the tools, or what did you do to get out of the funk or to get out of the slump, because you knew that you had to produce at a high level? Like, how were you getting out of slumps this last year?
Yeah. Great question, because it's definitely hard when you get into those. And I definitely, that happened to me a couple of times this summer. So I think just kind of like refocusing on the very basics of the basics, because I think sometimes when you get in slumps, it's like you start doing things that you don't even realize that you're doing. You start getting in your head. Things just like you get really overwhelmed and stuff too, because like there were days that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even halfway there yet, and this is already getting really hard. Like, this is a struggle. And so I think just taking it day by day and then going back to the basics. So it's like, okay, don't think about like 1,000 accounts. Like, don't think about the fact that I have like this many accounts left to do. Like, let's just focus on my goal for today, and let's focus on what I need to do today. Let's refocus, go back to the basics, make sure that I'm not, you know, doing or saying anything, like not overcompensating for anything. But let's just like get back into my routine, go back to the basics on the doors, and just focus on that goal for today and take it day by day.
So you went into the summer knowing that you were going to do a golden door. Did you tell anyone or have anyone hold you accountable or anything like that you can reach out to when you were having rough days?
Yeah. So my manager, he definitely knew that was my goal, to hit 1,000 accounts, do a golden door. And so every time that I was struggling, he was my go-to person to kind of reach out to. So.
I love that. Yes. For those of you guys who have really big goals for 2023, having an accountability partner or someone that you're going to be able to share the story and this vision, this dream with, that will actually hold you accountable and help you on those tough days, I think is like super huge. And so I know, like, going into this upcoming year, if you guys are looking to do that, like, definitely find someone that you can share your goals with. But before we end, Rachel, so I want you, for women who has never been in door-to-door, just don't have like any sales experience like whatsoever, what would be some tips that you would give to women who are looking into sales and kind of prepping for the summer? Like, what would be a couple of pieces of advice that women should take counsel to before the summer starts?
So I think, first of all, like, anyone can do it. Like, that's like the beauty of this job, is that really anyone can do it. Yeah. But you just have to be like dedicated and determined enough, and you have to remember that it's not going to be easy. Because I think sometimes, like, people go into this job and they're like, oh, I can do it. Like, if this person did it, I can do it. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. But I think the biggest thing that you can do is just like get in the right headspace, like prepare yourself like for the worst, like prepare yourself that it's going to be really, really hard. It's not going to be the most fun thing that you ever do. No. But it's like, if you prepare yourself for the worst, like things will turn out better than you think, like, over the summer. That's kind of what I did, like, my first summer, like, with having no sales experience. I just, like, I was preparing for like people to be like so rude to solicitors. Like, I was just thinking about the worst of the worst people, the people that hate door-to-door salesmen. Like, I was just thinking I would have like the worst days ever, like have to put up with a lot, like have all this hard time being around like all these dudes. Like, I was just preparing for the worst situations that like my mind was just like mentally ready to go into that. And then when it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be going out, then I was like super prepared, and I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. Like, I can do this. So.
I love that. So Rachel and I were chatting before we got on the show on how she's got like a rental property and all the things that she's going to be prepping to do. But just sitting here listening to your story, you had zero sales experience. You knew nothing that you were doing. You were one of only 2 girls on your team, like the very first year. You're going through struggles right now, getting into like your 4th year. But a lot of good has come from those bad days, such as being able to be financially like independent. So you have one rental property right now. Tell me, like, what are some of your like financial goals for this year? Kind of like, what are you wanting to build this year as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking to buy another house right now.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm talking to my real estate agent.
Yeah, 26, about to be in house number 2, friends, with zero sales experience from a couple years ago.
After, third year, just finished third year. So definitely looking into doing that. And then looking into just doing smarter investments, I think, with my money. I never thought that I would be at this position that I would be, to be as financially stable as I am. Awesome. And so that's another thing that I'm just kind of like learning the ins and outs of right now. Like, what's the best way to manage money? Like, because I never thought I would really have
make this much money at 26, right?
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'll have, X amount for the down payment on my house, like all of that. But now looking into what the smartest kind of investments and stuff are after that.
I love that.
I'm big on saving, investing, things like that. I'm not a huge spender. I bought a new car and my house last year, so that was were my 2 biggest expenses.
So she's like, this year is like my saving year. And
but yeah, now I'm like, I just want to be smart with my money and set myself up for the future well.
I love that. Like, women are just so so much more emotionally mature.
Yeah, instead of going and buying a flashy car.
Yes, and all the and all the gold chains. I mean, no offense to those of you guys who like the nice, like, fancy things.
Yeah.
Like, all, like, all props to you. But again, like, thank you so much, Rachel, for taking the time to come out here. Like, I just know that so many people are just super impressed by you. And I look up to you and just like how young you are and what you're doing in this space. And I just want to wish you like all the best of luck, this upcoming year. And I'm excited to kind of watch you and hear you like share some of your stories. Again, for those of you women out there with zero sales experience, looking into the door-to-door space, if you're wanting to get into pest control, like, where can people reach you at, Rachel?
Yeah, I think the best place right now is just Instagram. I think is like the best platform for anyone to reach out to.
Yes.
So yeah.
And what's your Instagram handle?
So it's Rachel_Carroll, and then my last name is 2 R's, 2 L's. So yeah, that's definitely the best place to reach me out if anyone is interested in pest control, door-to-door sales. Like Suli said, I'm building a team this summer, so feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
Yes, I love those of you women who are out there running a team. Again, if any of you guys are looking into pest control, or just for any of you women leaders out there who are just feeling a little bit lonely or kind of like looking for some tips and advice, like, reach out, build a community with Rachel. Like, I am super stoked for this upcoming summer and for what you're going to be doing. Again, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. If I've added any kind of value to your thoughts on knocking doors, please share this podcast with another female rep. Until next time, know that you are capable, you are valued, and most importantly, you are enough.